ॐ यो देव सवितास्माकं धियो धर्मादिगोचराः प्रेरयेत्तस्य यद्भर्गः तद्वरेण्यम् उपास्महे। हरि ओम। ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। We are back to Viveka Chudamani. Last week we were discussing some points about the importance of handling the vasanas. The different conditionings and the impressions left in the mind might assert themselves even after the person is enlightened, even after the person is very clearly understood that I am Brahman. Okay. So, a way of life that is dedicated to one's firm establishment in the knowledge and avoiding situations and the causes and conditions that can encourage our habit patterns. Such a lifestyle, such a way of life is recommended. That was the gist. So there are a lot of arguments which are given to emphasize this point. So we are going through that. So we saw this. Anatma vasana jalais tirobhutatma vasana nityatma nisthaya tesham nasho bhati swayam sphutam. The innumerable desires for things that are not oneself. That means here it is nitya. Innumerable desires for things, this desiring process and the things themselves which are nitya, cloud the desire for self-realization. Anatma vasana jalehi means the tendency to associate with things as not oneself. We should translate like this. Anatma vasana jalehi means the tendency to generate anatman. We will put like this because this is being talked about for the enlightened person. So, from the point of view of self-knowledge, there is nothing that is not the self. So when you consider an object as an object, when you create duality by projecting otherness other than yourself, that means how you are able to create the otherness? By identifying yourself with the body and the mind. So when you assume a limitation upon yourself, automatically you generate otherness with respect to objects. If that is not there, all the objects and things what are apparently perceived as duality will be instantly resolved in the unity vision of everything as oneself. So because of that reason, Anatma Vasana Jalehi means the magic created by the tendency to generate duality. Because of that, Tirobhuta Atma Vasana, the tendency to remember the truth of oneself is being clouded or is being covered up. Tirobhuta. Tirodhanam, say no, one of it's covering up. And Nitya Atma Nisthaya, by constantly being established, by constantly committing oneself to the contemplation on the truth of oneself, Tesham Nashe Bhati Swayam Sputaha. And when one is completely devoted to the vision of the self, without break, Viveka Kyather Aviplava, I quoted the Patanjali Yoga Sutram, which talks about incessant application of Viveka Kyati, staying in Viveka discrimination incessantly, he talks Patanjali. Because it is based on Sankhya, he calls it as Viveka, Jnana Dikti, the flame of knowledge. Viveka means reality consciousness. For a Sankhya person, it is a reality consciousness, it's Understanding I am the Purusha separate from Prakriti. But if you are a Vedantic, if you are one who is contemplating on the Advaita, the truth, the non-dual truth of your own true nature, which is based on the teaching of the Mahavakya and all that, here it means constant abidance in the self-knowledge. Prasankhyanam it is called. Another word for this is prasankhyanam. It is a constant remembrance of the true nature of oneself. By abiding in the self, this vasana, tesham, yesham, tesham means yesham, which one? Tesham, this vasana means the tendency to generate duality gets destroyed. Having destroyed this tendency to generate duality by steady abidance in the truth of oneself. Who should abide steadily? You can say, I am already the self. Being the self, this is one main confusion in this Ramana Maharshi school. These people who think they understood Ramana Maharshi. So they say like this. To be the self is all that is required. Bhagavan said. How they will say, you are already the self. You have to just be the self. If you are already the self, why the question of being the self comes? So if I have to say, I have to just be the self means what? The buddhi must be devoted to the vision of oneself as the Brahman. That is what it means. Atmanishtaya means abiding in the self, means the buddhi firmly abiding in the self-knowledge, which is the result of Mahavakya Vichara. See, self-knowledge, Mahavakya is not self-knowledge. Mahavakya generates self-knowledge. The content of Mahavakya, when meditated upon, generates self-knowledge. It is like helping a woman feel beautiful. Do you feel beautiful? Suddenly 5 people come. Wow, you look so good today. You look so beautiful. Look at your hair. Look at your earrings. Look at your dress. Look at your posture. Then when they say like that, inside it comes up. That feeling generated by the words you are beautiful. When people telling you again and again you are beautiful, generates a feeling inside. No? That feeling is the result of these words. You own up the meaning of the words and it generates the self-image that I am beautiful. Similarly, when you own up the meaning of the words Tattvamasi, you are that. When you own up the meaning of the word, it generates Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. That is Swatmanishtaya, means being established, not allowing oneself to waver from this vision generated by the words of the Upanishads. The words of the teaching generates that I am Brahman understanding, that the meaning of it generates that, to stay in that. That is what it means, Atmanishtaya. Being established in the vision of the self generated by the Mahavakya in the Buddhi. The Buddhi only stays in the Atmanishta. The Buddhi only stays in the vision of the self generated by the meanings of the great utterances of the Upanishad. Okay, so that staying in that continuously, not losing sight of it across all activities, across the 3 periods of time, which is Vedantraha Trishu Kaleshu. In waking, dream and sleep, you don't lose touch with that fact about yourself. Being like that, the Anatma Vasana is destroyed completely. What? The tendency to create Anatman, the tendency to generate duality is completely gone, and then the self manifests by itself clearly. The self manifests clearly all by itself means what? Without needing the effort of contemplation, the reality of the self shines spontaneously. Because there is no more vasana to cloud, it is a habitual error. The habitual error having been eliminated, abidance in self-knowledge is spontaneous. That's all it means. Yatha yata pratyagavasthitam manaha. Yatha yata pratyagavasthitam manaha. Tatha tatha munchati brahma vasana nishesha mokshe sati vasananam atmanubhuti pratibandha shunya. यथा यथा प्रत्यगवस्थितां मनः तथा तथा मुञ्चति बाह्यवासनाम्. Yatha yatha, wherever, in whatever way, whenever one is established in the inward tendency of being established in the vision of the self, whenever the mind is inward, means towards not in. Why it is called inward is because when you are not associated with object oriented thinking, when the mind is not generating names and forms and getting attached to names and forms, and through the sense faculties you are dealing with objects outside. Here it also pratyagavastita means pratyag means the mind is withdrawn back into its own source. That's how we have to consider. It is not inward mind. Then you are generating a conflict between inside the body and outside the body. Inward vision does not mean inside the body. Inward vision means not going outward. That is what it means. So, whenever the mind is not going outward and it is absorbed back into its source, which is the self, tata, then and then, munchati brahmavasana. So, Bhakyavasana, sorry. Tata munchati Bhakyavasana Nishesha Mokshe Sati. When completely ends Vasananam, desires, Atmanubhuti, Pratibandha Shunyaha. Whenever, to that amount, Yatha means that much when the mind leaves the outward tendency and abides in the as much the mind leaves the outward tendency and abides in the vision of the self, that much the outward tendency, the habitual error reduces, and this completely ends the impressions, burns. No, they say the seeds getting burnt, roasted seeds don't sprout. Similarly, the vasanaha means the impressions left by the past habits, those impressions as though get roasted, they get destroyed, and those desires don't get activated again, they completely end the desires. And Atma Anubhuti Pratibandha Shunyaha, the experience of the true nature of oneself, Swarupa Avastha. Atma Anubhuti means Swarupa Avastha. The experience of the true nature of oneself is unobstructed. That is what it means. End the superimposition, that means how to end the superimposition. Swatmanyeva sada sthitva mano nashyati yoginaha vasananam kshayaschataha swadhyasapanayam guru. Being ever established in one's own self, the yogin's mind becomes still. There is complete cessation of residual impressions. Therefore, diligently put an end to all your superimpositions. It is a encouragement for vasana kshaya. The Guru is giving encouragement for practice of samadhi. Okay. Swatmanyeva sada sthitva mano nashyanti yoginaha. By being constantly, steadily committed to the vision of the self. That is what we have to say. We should not say abiding in the self. Abiding in the self. Abiding in the self is very confusing. Which means abiding in the self means the intellect, the buddhi staying absolutely still and firm in the vision, doesn't lose sight of this vision of the self. Doesn't move from this feeling. It is completely established there. So when the buddhi is completely established in the vision of the self, the yogin's mind becomes still. How the mind moves? When an object is there, suddenly an object comes in front of your eyes, and immediately there is attraction. There is a natural tendency from inside in terms of attraction or repulsion. Any object that comes. Okay? Suddenly you remember somebody is playing one song that is your favorite song. Some neighbor is playing. Immediately the mind goes there. No, I'm in the class. Then you bring it back. Now, the natural tendency of the movement of the mind comes because of vasana. Vasana means smell. Every day you give, covering for these pigeons in the park. The moment that granny comes with the covering, all the pigeons come. Vasana. This is called vasana. The moment that granny smell and that covering smell comes, all the pigeons come instantly. How they come? Because of the vasana attraction. Similarly, we have been programmed by life after life of indulgence in sense objects. And it is not only relating with the sense object. When you relate with the sense object, you are attributing a self-referral value to that object. When I say this clock, the moment I see this clock, a lot of ideas that connect my sense of self with this clock is there. This clock, let us say this clock has been very useful in the class and all that, okay? And later I become 85 years old, somewhere I am in some monastery somewhere, let's say. And this clock is there. When I see this clock, all the nice time we had here, this Bucharest ashram, everything will come. That is called vasana. So, why comes how this inanimate clock is able to generate all these feelings is because I have associated this clock with a set of experiences which I consider are my experiences. And those experiences make some kind of a difference to me. I am miserable. So, whoever gave me a flower, I remember the person. So, the flower is generating some kind of freedom from misery for some time. So, whenever somebody comes, I expect them to bring a flower. And whenever the person does not bring a flower, I get upset. I think that person does not love me anymore. Now, all this generating, meaning is generated. So, an object affects me only based on how I consider this object in the buddhi. Now, in the buddhi, either I have cultivated a tendency to consider an object in a certain manner. Yatra incense stick, ashram smell. So this specific ashram smell belongs to one brand of incense stick from India. So wherever I get that smell, this place also smells like ashram. One day you go to one of our students' house, they also happen to bring this yatra from India, and they say, this smells exactly like ashram. This association. Then how it is valuable for you, it is good for me or bad for me, all this is there. So the buddhi automatically has habituated certain meanings to certain objects, which is very useful. This is a faculty that is very useful for everyday transaction. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There is another buddhi which is making that tendency relevant or irrelevant for the current moment. Habitually, my mind creates a certain idea. Then I say no, and I bring myself back. Or yes, and I go behind it. So there is two levels of activity of the buddhi. So what is being told here is, when an object comes, there may be these tendencies in the mind, but do not click on the tendency. It is like opening a window in a Windows computer, where you go into some kind of a malicious website and it is throwing all kinds of Windows games, it is flashing on your screen, pop-up. So you put a pop-up blocker. Sometimes pop-up blocker doesn't work until something pops up. You practice yoga, pranayama, everything, all pop-up blockers, and nothing pops up. And inside your chitta it pops up. Because you have a virus already planted here. Anatma vasana is virus already sitting in your chitta. So it creates an object from memory. And no object is present, your chitta generates object. So then what happens? The moment you click on the pop-up, 100 windows will open. But it will keep flashing. You should not click on the pop-up. How you don't click on a pop-up window? By remembering that this pop-up window can contain virus, can contain malicious software, it puts me into trouble. I should stay on the course on what I am here to browse or read in the internet. So you remember your Purushartha and you just stay committed to what you are doing and learn to ignore the pop-up. Because you cannot close certain pop-ups also. There are some pop-up windows that you cannot close. If you close them, still it is like clicking on them. It is a certain program. So the pop-ups in the mind are like that. If you encourage it also, it becomes strong. It generates trouble. You discourage it and you push it, control it also, it generates problem. So what the Acharya is telling here is work with your buddhi. Work with your understanding. Don't fight with the mind. So a clue that we can take from this instruction to the jnani, this is instruction to a jnani, but what we can take is, the clue is this. Being ever established in one's own self, the yogi's mind becomes still. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the first 3 sutras are Atha, Yoga Anushasanam, now the exposition of Yoga, which is Samadhi and all that. And then next is Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is cessation of the different movements of the mind. This definition you will see in every book. Yoga is the stopping of the movements of the mind, controlling of the movements of the mind. Yoga is the complete stillness of the mind. There is another sutra. After that, Tatha Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. Thus, by that, the seer is established in his own nature. Now, the connection between stopping of the mind and the seer being established in one's own nature, it is converse is also true. It is mutual. I have to deal with the movements of the mind. I have to control those movements of the mind that take me away from the vision of myself. I have to control the mind in a way that it promotes my abiding in the vision of myself, abiding in my true nature. Then, while I am abiding in my true nature, the other movements of the mind which are latent impressions also fade away, which he talks about in the Kaivalya. So first, I have to prepare my mind to get the vision of the self. So in the beginning is, learn to work with your mind so that it can give you some space to comprehend what you are. Having comprehended what you are, be committed to the knowledge incessantly, without break, and then what happens? All those deep-seated causes and conditions that generate noise in the mind, those conditions get cleared completely. Tatha Desha Karma Nivritti. In the 4th chapter, by that, by constant abidance in self-knowledge, which is of the nature of pure Vairagya, Paravairagya, all the pain-causing habitual tendencies which are causing affliction and which are causing bondage into the cycle of action and result of action, klesha, karma, pain-causing afflictions and the patterns of action and activity. Karma is also mental karma, physical karma, verbal karma. So, activities of the mind are also karma. All these, the seed of these tendencies, clear, nivritti means they become clear, you become free from them. That is the complete freedom from klesha and karma. So, it is the same concept here, but with the emphasis on the self-knowledge as it is revealed by Vedanta. So, the process of yoga, this is the process of yoga. So, the yogi means the one who is devoted to abiding in the self. That person is established in one's own nature. When the yogi is devoted to the vision of one's own true nature, when the buddhi is continuously devoted to staying in the vision of one's own true nature, the mind becomes still. Because the mind does not have fuel. Only, see, the mind out of its habitual potential, this pent up energy, all is bottled up. Like in a dream, when you go to sleep, how dreams get generated? Because of the already existing energy within the thought structures, the mind projects images. So the mind will project something out of the prarabdha karma. Out of prarabdha karma, the mind will project something. But when the buddhi is firmly in the vision of the self, the mind exhausts its fuel. The mind cannot perpetuate itself when the buddhi is not available for the mind. Then it is like a ventilator that has been switched off. It will go around for some time and it will become still. So he is saying, oh yogi, don't break your head for fighting with the mind. Be devoted to the self-knowledge. For that person who is devoted to the vision of the self, mind becomes automatically still. This is the approach which is also recommended by Sri Shankaracharya in Aparoksha Anubhuti. Also by this is called Jnana Ashtanga Yoga. So there is these acharyas who are taught or given a presentation of the Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, the 8 limbs of yoga redefined for a Vedantic. The 8 limbs of yoga are redefined for a person who has self-knowledge. They are approached in a different manner. Once the person is exposed to self-knowledge, the 8 limbs of yoga are reinterpreted in accordance with the vision of self-knowledge. It is this topic is dealt with elaborately in the text Aparoksha Anubhuti. You can note down Aparoksha Anubhuti. PDF is available in the internet. Just for curiosity reading you can read. Maybe one day we will deal with that also. Then there is complete cessation of residual impressions. Sthitva mano nashyati yoginah swatmanyeva sada sthitva mano nashyati yoginah vasananam kshayaschatah kshayah cha atah vasananam kshayah, the impressions and the latent tendencies being destroyed, and thus swadhyasa apanayam, negation of your ataha. So for that sake, swadhyasa apanayam kuru. What you should do? Do this. Do what? Do swadhyasa apanayam, which means do negation of your superimposition. Swa adhyasa apanayam. Swa adhyasa means self adhyasa, superimposition. That means stop projecting your sense of self in the body and the mind and in the objects. When the person is devoted to the self-knowledge, the mind becomes still and the vasanas are destroyed. So may you be devoted to the negation of self-superimposition. Habitually, my body, I and mind. There is a tendency in my buddhi to constantly generate I and mind with respect to this body, with respect to the mind, with respect to the objects. So every time I catch my mind generating I and mind, immediately I withdraw it back to the vision of the self. That is the practice. Swa adhyasa apanayam means bring back the mind, bring back your buddhi whenever you catch it generating egotism, and whenever you catch it generating the sense of self in objects. Objects means things, your own body, your own mind, your own buddhi. Anything, any name and form, any structure is an object, and no structure is you. Anything that is created, sustained and destroyed and changes, that is subject to change, cannot be you. Everything that is subject to change is mithya. Apparent, dependent reality. It is only functionally true, it is not really true. The stool in which this camera is sitting, this crown is only an appearance. What is there is wood. Correct? So similarly, whatever object or a limited entity that is experienced is mithya. Jagat mithya. So, I being the Satya, how can I feel myself as something that is mithya? So every time when I generate I and mind, I should bring back this buddhi to the vision of the self and remembering I am Brahman. That is what is meant here. Tamo dvabhyam rajah sattvat sattvam shuddhena nashyati. Tasmat sattvam avashtabhya Swadhyasapanayam Guru. So he is Swadhyasapanayam Guru is telling that is how to and this habitual tendency to generate the wrong idea of oneself. This tendency to generate wrong idea of oneself is caused by so many factors. So he is dealing with one factor. First, may you be devoted to the vision of the self and thus end your habitual superimposition. Then second, tamas is overcome both by rajas and sattva. Overcome by sattva, and sattva is by purification. Therefore, taking recourse to sattva, diligently put an end to your superimposition. Here another recommendation given is tamas is overcome by rajas and sattva. Now there are three qualities. How this mind works? Anything, see, the superimposition is in the mind. This habitual tendency to generate that limited self is in the mind, is in the buddhi. When do I generate a stronger, when is my habitual tendency very strong? Habitual error is very strong whenever there is more tamas and more rajas in my system. One day, nice onion based soup. Superimposition will be stronger. The vasanas will be stronger. Few days without salt or some very sattvic food and not much thing, and you meditate and don't expose yourself to too much internet, TV and all that, then the self-remembrance will be better. And your practice will be better. If you do some mantra, suddenly you will see that when you are disciplined, when you are in a retreat, the concentration and meditation is very good. Then when you go to too much anxiety, office and entertainment and you go for parties or whatever, then your concentration in the japa is less. Why? It is because of the play of sattva, rajas and tamas, the three gunas. So the mind has to be constantly brought back to the sattvic mode. Sannyasa yoga ere shuddha sattvaha. Sannyasa is shuddha sattva. The yoga of renunciation is continuously devoting oneself to the encouragement of Shuddha Sattva, pure Sattva, and the Sattva is cured. Sattva is also a bondage by Sattva Shuddhi, means which is Buddhi, which is Jnana or knowledge. I overcome laziness by activity. I overcome activity by Sattva, serenity. I overcome my bondage to serenity with knowledge. Through this process of gradually coming from tamas to rajas to sattva to knowledge, overcome this habitual error of superimposing your sense of self on things and mind and body. Okay. Then the next one. Prarabdham pushyati vipuriti nischitya nischalaha. Dairyamalamvya yatnena swadhyasa. Prarabdham, the karma, prarabdha karma, pushyati, nourishes vipuhu, the body. Thus, nischitya, being firmly clear about this, nischala, don't worry, remain undisturbed, dhairyam, with courage and with resolve, alambhya, depending upon, with effort, swadhyasa, knowing for certain that your prarabdha karma will sustain this body, remain steady and with courage and strive hard to put an end to your superimposition. May you be devoted to the self-knowledge even in the wake of anxiety regarding physical survival. If I have a prarabdha, if this body has a prarabdha, this body and mind is taken care, its survival of this body is taken care by your prarabdha karma. Understanding that my prarabdha karma will bring me food in the middle of the forest if I have karma to eat. If I don't have the karma to eat, I will be working as a waiter in a 5-star hotel, helping people to eat their buffet lunch, where there are 200 items on display. I cannot eat anything. I will be hungry. I have to wait for the lunch to get over. Every day I will work like this in a 5-star hotel, and I will end up with ulcer because I could not eat on time. It is possible. I may be a owner of a hotel and still I will be having ulcer, and most of the things that is cooked in my hotel I cannot eat. I mean, restaurant. In India we say hotel. I mean restaurant. Hotel means restaurant. Okay, in Indian English. Okay. So, working in a restaurant, it is possible to go hungry. Living in the middle of the forest, it is possible to find delicious, excellent food at the right time. Some tribals may come and give you fantastic natural bio food in the middle of the forest. It is also possible. So, may you be very clear in your mind what sustains your body is your prarabdha karma. So, don't worry about this sustaining the body. What will I do for my food, clothing and shelter? Don't worry about this. This is for sannyasi. It's not for active people. It's for sannyasi. For active people, it is good to develop this attitude, to bring down your anxiety. But still, you have to do some things to keep, otherwise your mind will run amok. So, it's not for Karma Yogi entirely. Karma Yogi also you can say, because it helps you to overcome anxiety for survival. Don't do things with the fear of survival. May you be devoted to Dharma. That is the direction for Karma Yogi. A person who is devoted to an active life, be devoted to Dharma without bothering about your survival. Your survival is taken care by your prarabdha karma. So be devoted to Dharma. Similarly, for a sannyasi, your prarabdha karma takes care of your body. So may you be devoted to abiding in the self-knowledge, not worrying about the body, etc. and survival. With courage, strive hard to put an end to your superimpositions by being devoted to the knowledge. Striving hard means what? Don't give in to weakness. Diligently bring your mind back to the self-knowledge, to the contemplation. That's what it means. Naham jivaha param brahmet yatad vyavritti purvakam. Yatad vyavritti purvakam. Okay. Na aham jivaha, I am not this individual. Param Brahma, I am the Supreme Brahman. Thus, atat vyavritti purvakam, eliminating atat vyavritti purvakam, eliminating all that is not the self. Atat vasana vegataha, through the force of your vasana, prapta manifests svadhyaya panayuko. I am not this individual, I am the Supreme Brahman. Thus, by eliminating all that is not the self, diligently put an end to your superimpositions which arise through the force of your past desires. Nanaham jivaha param brahme yatad vyavritti purvakam vasana vegataha praptas svadhyasapanayam guru. Preceded by I am not the Jiva, but I am the Param Brahma. Okay. Brahma. Atat vyavritti purvakam. Avritti purvakam means when there is a force of vairagya, there is a certain force that is generated in the buddhi, when it is devoted to the contemplation that I am not this individual, I am Brahman. When the mind is contemplating on the meaning of the word that I am not this individual, I am Brahman, it generates a certain vairagya, it generates a certain power of withdrawal. Okay? Preceded by this contemplation, other vasana vegataha prapta swadhyasya panayuko. Preceded by this contemplation, let the superimposition generated by the power of habitual error be put to an end. That means the tendency for your habitual error to come ceases, stops when it is preceded by that means by the power of the contemplation on the fact that I am not the individual, I am Brahman, put an end to the power of this vasana which is coming out and generating that habitual error of superimposing your sense of self on things. So by devoting to the vision of the self, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the individual, I am the Brahman. Yatireka anvaya. This is the process. Right? Shrutya yuktya svanabhutya jnatva sarvatmyamatmanah kvachidabhasatah prapta swadhyasapanayam guru. Having realized your own self to be a self in all through the scriptures by reasoning, the translation says from your own direct experience. This is funny. Shrutya yuktya swanubhutya jnatva sarvatmyam atmanaha kvachit abhasatah prapta swadhyasya apanayam kurutu. Given a little at any time as an appearance. See, Shruti, Yukti, Swanubhuti. Three things are talked about here. Shruti, Yukti, Swanubhuti means here it is to be understood in two ways. One, the usual popular meaning, the explanation given is first you hear from the scriptures, then you using logic and all that you understand what it means, then you translate it into your direct experience, and then you have this mystics talking about, I could feel my consciousness getting transferred into another person. I could feel that I am inside everybody. I could feel myself in his heart, in her heart, in the heart of the planet, in the heart of the stars, and some mystic language. So when you're hearing all that, we tend to think that self-realization is some kind of this experience where you are feeling in everything. It's not like that. Here, experience here means by the analysis of one's own experience, which is superseded by the vision of the scripture, and the vision and analyzing one's own experiences and one's own logical conclusions in the light of the truth revealed by the scripture, may you understand that the self of all is myself. Sometimes, in India, when the Brahmins pray, every time during the 3 times prayer, they will say, Asava, Dityo, Brahma, Brahmeva, Hamasmi. This sun is Brahman. You are praying, you are doing all your offering, everything, to visualizing Ishvara and the sun. Okay, so it's a Yodeva Samhita Smartam, this Gayatri mantra and all is there. So when you visualize in the sun, you say, this sun that I am worshipping is Brahman. And I am that Brahman. This is the contemplation you are supposed to do every day. And after that, only you offer the operations to all the devatas and everything. So similarly, when you do worship, you say, Soham Bhavena Pujayet. So this Bhava is incorporated, that I am Brahman is incorporated into the culture. So now, what he is saying is, Shruti Yukti Anubhav. So now, this statement that you are Brahman, all that is, when I say I am Brahman, which means all that is here is me, there is nothing other than me, I alone exist, that is the meaning. Okay. So now, Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Anubhava, Swanubhutya here means after owning up. In this context, it can be translated as after hearing and well analyzing the meaning of the words of the Mahavakya, it generates what is called as Akandakara Vritti or Brahmakara Vritti, which is I am that. The meaning of the word I am that creates a certain I alone am, which is the self-referral or spontaneous self-awareness that does not exclude anything from itself. A certain kind of self-awareness, a self-referral consciousness, which does not exclude anything in its vision of oneself, in the vision of the self. It cannot be described, okay? It is just to be experienced, but it is not a mystic experience. It is I alone am. It is just aham, iti. That when you say I am, that is a feeling, no? Ero. But that I will be very pregnant. This I, when it is very pregnant with the vision of everything is me. It is something like this. I am, when you say I, the feeling is as an individual, separate from things and small or big or whatever. When you say, when a lot of people are appreciating you for something, you say me. That me is loaded with appreciation, right? When a lot of people are teasing you and a lot of people are abusing you and they are telling all bad things about you, and by by mistake you have owned the term. Some 10 people call you idiot, and then you feel small and you feel like an idiot. At that time, when you say me, that me is loaded with the idea of smallness about yourself. Right? In the same way, when you contemplate on the meaning of the Mahavakya, Shrutya Yuktya Swanubhutya, means by listening to the exposition of the vision of the self by the scripture through a qualified teacher, and well analyzing and understanding what it actually means with reference to oneself, the sense of self becomes pregnant with this vision about oneself. That is Swanubhuti. That is the self. That is the experience. Means the contemplation resulting in a certain self-referral attitude, which does not exclude anything from the idea of self. All this is me. I alone am. It generates a certain all-encompassing sense of self. That is called Akhandagara Vritti. Only the person who has it knows. Okay? So this Akhandagara Vritti is what is talked about as Swanubhuti. It is not this feeling of directly experiencing yourself in everything. It's a very confusing explanation. So wherever you see direct experience, cut it off and say completely owning up the meaning of self-knowledge. That is what it means experience here. Okay? By the power of this, diligently put an end to your superimposition. Means he is re-emphasizing the importance of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana means listening, Shrutya, Manana, contemplating and trying to understand and clear all the vagueness and doubt about it. Yuktaya, and Swanubhutya means bringing that significance, bringing that meaning in one's everyday situations and experiences. That vision of oneself being part of my everyday experiences, being part of my waking state experiences, being part, backing up. That vision of the self is backing up my waking state, the vision of the self is backing up my dream, and the vision of the self is backing up my sleep. That backing up of everyday situations and experiences with the vision of the self is called Nididhyasana. Living the meaning of the knowledge, which is generated by contemplation on what you have listened from the scripture. It generates the meaning, self-referral meaning, and you live that meaning. You live your everyday experiences. You live your everyday experiences in the light of this vision of yourself. That is called Swanubhuti. So, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, by the process of listening, contemplation and living your everyday and the light of this knowledge, put an end to this habitual error of superimposing yourself on what is not yourself, or superimposing yourself on limitations, limited things. That is what it means here. Anadana visargabhyamishannasti kriyamehe. तदेक निष्ठ्या नित्यं स्वाध्यायारणं कुरु. अनादान visargabhyam, with accepting anadana visargabhyam means refraining from the tendency to accept and reject. In our brain, neuropsychologists will talk about there is something called excitatory mechanism and inhibitory mechanism. The back brain will throw up something, and the front brain will push it down, or the front brain will click on it and pursue it. So, the moment you become aware of something from the chitta, you get excited and then you go with it. Or the moment you become aware of something from the chitta, you get rid of it. Whatever is pleasing, I accept it. Whatever is displeasing, I reject it. So, these two are egocentric movements which reinforce reinforce my sense of identity with the body and mind. Why do I do raga dvesha? That is what is being called, talked about here. Anadana visargabhyam means not indulging in raga dvesha, with accepting and rejecting whatever means each other. Na asti, there is no kriya, action, idea. Munehe. Tat ekanishtaya. Therefore, with this single pointed abidance in the self-knowledge all the time, so adhyasapana, or put an end to your supreme. Here is saying, one of the main factors that contribute to strengthening your habitual error of self-definition based on body and mind and situations. How it is encouraged and reinforced is by encouraging your likes and dislikes. When there is absolutely no acceptance or rejection regarding anything in the buddhi, you look for the tendency to get attached or the tendency to voluntarily enjoy and associate with what is pleasing, and the tendency to get rid of what is not pleasing. This tendency is there in the buddhi based on different preferences, and this tendency has behind it the programming of I am so and so based on body and mind. Because I consider myself as some kind of a limited entity, something becomes challenging to this limited entity, I want to reject. Something that nourishes this limited entity, I want to accept. So whatever is nourishing that limited entity that I consider myself as, whatever is nice for this body, a nice cushion, it's a acceptable, pleasing thing. When there are two seats, one is a nice velvet cushion, another is one block of wood, and you are very tired. Obviously, there are three people there. One person has to stand. There will be like a musical chair. Nobody will tell anything, but they will be wishing that that cushion comes for me. Why? Because that cushion is very pleasing to me as a body. So when whatever is pleasing for my identification with the body, I have a tendency to get attached. There is a desire, raga. Then whenever there is something that is not okay, there is a dvesha. When there is a lot of, when they are serving this bitter gourd in India, and they are serving payasam. When payasam comes, mind looks for the second cup. When the bitter gourd comes, you wish that he does not serve you more, or if you can escape it somehow. So this just rushes from the system. So what we have to do is to habituate yourself to withdraw from this, means to not to encourage this process. Whenever the mind generates a tendency based on liking, or when the mind generates a tendency based on disliking, do not act on it. Do not encourage it, but remember what you are. By that, what happens? The mind will completely stop generating this tendency of likes and dislikes with respect to things and situations. When it completely stops this, there will be no idea of action. There is no action. Whatever, when there is no likes and dislikes with respect to any kind of thing, there is no action for this person devoted to contemplation. There is no kriya, means there is no need for this, there is no tendency to be active. The karta, the action is always backed by a sense of being the experiencer of the result of action. Any action that I want to do, I feel like doing something because there is a desire for the result that I think will come at the end of this action. Bhoktutvam means the status of being an enjoyer or a sufferer. I am when the body and the mind is enjoying or suffering. I consider I am enjoying or suffering. Because of this, I do action. I am pushed to do action to avoid suffering. I am pushed to do action to acquire pleasure or acquire what is pleasing. Action is always to acquire what is pleasing and to get rid of what is displeasing. Why there is action? Because there is a fear of displeasure and desire for pleasure. So, when you habituate the mind to neither want or dislike anything, accepting and rejecting regarding whatever means gunadita, regarding all kinds of situations and things, when the accepting and rejecting is not encouraged, there will be no rush in your system to do things. Then you can be devoted to the contemplation of the truth of yourself, and thus you can put an end to the tendency of superimposition. Ekanishtaya means being devoted to the one truth, to that one thing. Nityam, or continuously. When the mind does not have tendency to generate ideas for doing things, all the time, when the mind is not preoccupied with action, it is easy for you to be devoted to the vision of that one truth continuously without break. So, when the mind is rushing behind something, don't try to bite your teeth and sit on contemplation. Analyze why the mind is rushing behind something. Why there is a tendency to do something. Why there is a compulsion to do something. Or why there is a compulsion for action or towards getting something or avoiding something. Because behind the action is sitting a like or a dislike. Acceptance or rejection. Behind which there is the idea that I am the enjoyer. That is what keeps the mind busy looking for things or rejecting things. So every time you find the mind rushing, trace it back to the like or the dislike that is powering that action and destroy that, eliminate that like and dislike by de-identification with it and devoting yourself to the vision of the oneself. Through this process, put an end to superimposition, habitual superimposition. Tattvamasya vakyo brahmatmaikatva bodhata brahmanyatmatva swadhyasapanayam guru. Tattvamasi adi vakyotha means arising from these sentences like that thou art. Arising from the sentences like you are that. Brahma atmaikatva bodhataha. The vision of the oneness between the self and the Supreme, the Brahman. Brahmani Atma Tvadadharyaya. For strengthening your Atma Tvada Atmatvadadhyaya Swadhyasapanayam, for the purpose of strengthening your identity with Brahman, by means of realizing the knowledge of the oneness between the self and the Supreme, arising from the Tattvamasi like statements, to strengthen your identity with Brahman, put an end to all the superimpositions. It is the same thing. Shruti, Yukti, Anubhava, what we saw before, it is the same thing, it is being repeated. It says, by the means of, that means, remember again and again, get back to the contemplation on the meaning of the words Tattvamasi. Again, when your teacher taught you Tattvamasi, remember that. By getting back to the meaning or the knowledge generated by the meditation on the meaning, on the significance of these sentences, that knowledge is generated. By that, put an end to the power of the knowledge, put an end to the habitual superimposition to strengthen your oneness with Brahman. Means what? To strengthen this akandaka, to strengthen this atmanishta vasana. It is something called Nirodha Samskara. It is called. There is something called Nirodha Samskara that is being talked about in yoga. A normal person has an inherent tendency to be drawn towards objects and situations. See, we find ourselves, when we go to a certain marketplace, for example, you find yourself, your mind drawn towards so many objects. Then you bring it back. So a person whose knowledge is not steady finds the mind drawn towards objects and enjoyments and situations. Pravritti Samskara. Now, Nirodha Samskara, which is the opposite of this, because of the power generated by contemplation, steady contemplation for a very long period generates a certain kind of magnetism within that is spontaneously bringing back your mind whenever there is an outward tendency. So the tendency to be devoted to the self-knowledge starts gaining an upper ground when compared to the tendency to be devoted to duality and enjoyment and object-oriented thinking and strengthening your superimposition. The superimposition strengthening tendency. Vision of the self, tendency to come back to the vision of the self. It's like a tug of war, yo-yo, going on all the time. Then more and more you encourage being devoted to the vision of the self, the equilibrium starts shifting towards the vision of the self, and the vasanas become lesser and lesser and lesser. This is what is explained in the Sapta Bhumikas, the 7 levels of accomplishment in self-knowledge, being talked about in Yoga Vasishta. There is a text called Yoga Vasishta. There he talks about Sapta Bhumika, the 7 planes of accomplishment: Svecha, Subhecha, Vicharana, Tanumanasi, Satvapatti, Asam Shakti, Padartha, Bhavani, Turiya. 7 levels are talked about, where it is nothing but a growing, an increasing tendency to be devoted to the self-knowledge. The natural tendency, the equilibrium shifting more and more toward the vision of the self, in contrast to the tendency to get attracted to objects. So, for a normal person, how easy it is to be drawn towards objects. For an accomplished yogi who is devoted to self-knowledge, it is very, very difficult to pull that fellow. As difficult as it is for you to sit in meditation, it will be so difficult for that person to come back to normal worldly interactions. Not to be excited about some mithya will be so impossible for this person devoted to self-knowledge, like how being in samadhi is impossible for this worldly person. So that is what it is. That's called Nirodha Samskara. That Samskara becomes strong. That is what is being discussed here. So he is encouraging the student to develop this Samskara. Aham bhavasya dehe asmin nishesha vilayavadhi savadhanena yuktatma swadhyasa anayam kuru. Aham bhavasya dehe asmin nishesha vilayavadhi. Till this tendency to consider this body as me, the feeling that I am this body, that is, the body, the feeling of considering oneself as defined by the body, defining oneself through the body, this tendency of I am generating because of the identity with the body. Okay, dehe asmin dehe, this body generating, considering this body as me. Put an end to this tendency to consider this body as oneself with what? Savadhanena yuktatma, being very, very attentive and devoted to the right method of contemplation. Yuktatma. Swadhyasa Panayam. Deny your Supreme Person. Be very, very vigilant regarding this tendency to consider oneself as the body. Me? You say, me? Why this me? Because I think I am the body. Because of thinking I am so and so based on my identification with body. So till this tendency is completely rooted out, may you be very, very vigilant. Don't take it for granted. Don't take your mind for granted. It is like walking on a razor's edge. How you will be so attentive. This side is a cliff, rock bottom cliff, and this side is a cliff. There is a very small, sharp edge. You have to walk on that. How careful you will be. Because the moment you fall, all your bones are into pieces. Right? How careful you will be. Like that, be very, very attentive. Till this tendency to identify yourself with the body is completely rooted out. How you are maintaining attention? By being very attentively devoted to this vision of the self, generated by the meditation of the Mahavakyas like Tatvamasi. Be devoted to the vision of the self with so much diligence till the I am body idea is rooted out. After that, you can chill out. There is no need to say that you have to chill out. Because as long as this I am the body tendency is there, so long the contemplation and the vigilance should be maintained. That is the main. Pratitir jiva jagatoho swapnavad bhavati yavata tavan nirantaram vidvan swadhyasa panayam kuru. Vidvan, O learned one, as long as even a dream-like perception of the world of objects and of the experience of the individuality persists, continuously strive to put an end to all your superimpositions. Pratiti Jiva Jagatoho Swapnavat Bhati Yatva, as long as Tavat Nirantaram Vidvan Swadhyasavane. How long should I be devoted to the process of contemplation based on the Mahavakya? This contemplation on the vision of the self generated by the great statements like Tatvamasi. How long should I be devoted to this contemplation? So long as even a dream-like appearance of duality is there in the mind. Even like in a dream, a very hazy feeling of this world and the object and me, the duality, considering myself as the doer and the enjoyer and the experiencer in relationship with objects, and the sense of Namarupa Veda. As long as even this dream-like appearance of name and form duality is lingering in the mind, till that, even if it is like a dream and very hazy, even till that time, you have to continue to be devoted to the contemplation. That means, when the mind is completely absorbed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, where there is no generation of duality at all, till that time the contemplation on the vision of the self is to be done by the one who is devoted to the self-knowledge. Nidraya lokavartayaha shabdadeerapi vismrute Vachinnavasaram dattva chintayatmanam atmani. Nidraya lokavartaya. Being asleep to the different matters of the world, Shabdadehe, and the five objects of the senses beginning with sound, etc. Also, Vismritehe, Kvachit, na avasaram, Dattva, giving, not giving at any time the vision of the self. Reflect or meditate Atmanam Atmani with your buddhi on the truth of in your buddhi, meditate on the truth of the self without giving scope for forgetfulness, being completely asleep to the matters of the world and completely indifferent to the different objects of the five sense faculties. He is talking about a kind of a pratyahara that is generated by the power of devotion to the knowledge. It is bhakti, devotion to the knowledge. Even in Narada Bhakti Sutra, it is basically Jnanottara Bhakti. Devotion to the self generated by the commitment to self-knowledge. Even if you go to Narada Bhakti Sutra, there is a text, very famous text for Bhakti. In that he says, the commentary and the text will tell you that pure devotion, Amrita Swarupa, pure devotion is of the nature of immortality, is of the nature of non-separateness. So here, all those are pointing out only to the devotion to the self. Ananya Bhaktya, Ananya Chinta Yantoma, Ejanat Paripasate comes in Bhagavad Gita. Those who are devoted to the vision of myself as not separate from them, continuously to the exclusion of everything else, I will take care of their well-being. Esham Nityavyuktanam, those who are devoted constantly to this vision of oneness between the self and the Supreme, their yoga kshemam, whatever they need to acquire and preserve, their everyday necessities, I will take care. Yoga kshemam mahamyam, which means what? Through the prarabdha karma. Because they don't work for themselves and they are taken care somehow, you say that Ishvara takes care of them. Those people who are devoted to the vision of the self. It comes in Bhagavad. So here also he says, that means what? The Lord has given you the promise that He will take care of everything. So why are you bothered about the world? Be like you are sleepwalking. Be completely asleep to the matters of the world. Don't even worry about it. You just be devoted to the self-knowledge. World will run on its own course. Your body will run on its own course. That is a big problem. So here, this is again is advice for a Sankhya, for a person who is a renunciant and devoted to self-knowledge. From this, what we can take? We can take that when you are devoted to your pursuit of mental purity through the different spiritual practices, etc., in your journey towards self-realization, the world and the body and everything will take care of itself. You surrender, be indifferent to the affairs of, don't think that you are here to control and get things done. May you be devoted to your performance of your dharma and may you be devoted to the process of Sattva Shuddhi. May you be continuously devoted to this process of purifying your motive in action, not bothering about the result of action. This is the translation for the Karma Yogi. How this can be translated for a Karma Yogi? For a yogi who is devoted to preparing oneself for self-knowledge, how we can translate this is, may you be devoted to the process of Karma Yoga. Don't worry about the result. So when we are practicing Karma Yoga, we have to habituate ourselves to be indifferent to the different situations that may happen and the different results our actions might bring. Once having decided what action is appropriate now, and when you devote yourself to that action in a spirit of worship to the Lord, you don't bother about the result. Whatever result comes is prasad. So, this you are habituating your buddhi not to generate experience-based anxiety. So when this habituation is there, the same habit will continue in the contemplation. So when you are pure enough to contemplate on self, you will be able to just ignore the whole universe and all this phenomenal world and be devoted only to the vision of the self. The rest is taken care by prarabdha, you don't care. If it is to be taken care, it is taken care. If it is not taken care, it is not taken care. Like how my teacher used to say, I have not given a contract to anybody. You have not signed any contract with anything. It's the sannyasi attitude. So this is valid for sannyasi, but what we can do is, the same thing can be extended to the attitude of Karma Yoga. If I am not anxious about getting things done, I lose my aggressiveness. What happens if I lose my aggressiveness? People ask me. Lose your aggressiveness. That is what spirituality is meant for. You are not here to be aggressive. As long as you are aggressive, as long as you think aggression is important, so long you will not be free. Mentally, in your buddhi, you are not aggressive. In a given situation, if aggression needs to be shown through your body and mind, when your buddhi is free from the anxiety for result, it is completely available to show aggression when required without being driven by the need for aggression. Without aggression, how you think Arjuna would have fought in the battle, Mahabharata war? You have all of the top archers and the fighters of the world sitting, all champions. He is fighting a champion. He himself is a champion. So when you are having a football match between two top teams and you are the forward in a football team, you have to be aggressive. Okay? But when your mind is devoted to dharma, and you are not anxious to win or lose, there will be a certain enlightened aggression. That aggression will show as a kind of an efficiency which is backed up with a certain kind of ease. There was a player in Sri Lanka, cricket player called Arjuna Ranatunga. So he is known for playing like a Buddha. He says he comes to the field with the equanimity of a Buddha, very calm. And he will be knocking left to right. You know, that complete, that momentum, when that force is required, it's available, mind and body is available to perform the dharma. So why you are in the position of an place where you have to show aggression? Because of your prarabdha. So if a person is in a situation where aggression is required according to one's dharma, which means your body and mind is already prepared for it. There is no point being worked up to show aggression. You can be completely at peak and then show the highest aggression possible. Be instrumental for that aggression to manifest through you. That is very different from being aggressive. So in the attitude, may you be relaxed. Have a relaxed attitude which is surrendered to Ishvara while performing karma. That will continue in the time when you have to do contemplation. So sannyasa is very difficult to attain without karma yoga. We will study in Bhagavad Gita. So here is talked about sannyasi, but this can come only when you habituate to this kind of devotion to your goal across all situations. No matter what situation you are in, you have to remember your goal as moksha, for which you are practicing surrender to the Lord while doing your action, which is karma yoga. So your mind is coming back to karma yoga attitude, yogic attitude in action constantly. Whenever you find yourself driving towards a result, bring back to devotion, bring yourself back to the devotional attitude and come back to action. Life will go on. So why? Then what happens if I don't perform? Doesn't matter. Are you performing inside? Are you diligently coming back to the devotional attitude in action? If you are doing that, you have done all that needs to be done. That is it. Because your purpose is not success, dharma, artha. Your purpose is not artha or kama. Your purpose is moksha. Artha or kama is taken care by the Lord. Your job is to do the dharma in the Lord. That's it. When this is done, what is being talked about here? Mata pitror malod bhutam malamam samayam vibhu tyaktva chanada lavat dhuram brahmi bhuya adibhava. Mata pitroho mala udbhutam malamam samayam vipuhu. This body, which is fundamentally made of flesh and constitute mala mamsa, which is made of impurity and flesh. This body is malam actually means human refuse. Malam means impurity, which also means waste material. This body is nothing but waste material or impurity and flesh. How this impurity and flesh made body came about? From the combined impurity of your father and mother. from the combined impurity of your father and mother, this body which is made of impurity and flesh has come about. Okay? Thinking like this, shunning your attachment to the body, Chandalavat, how you would discard despicable Chandala here means outcast. Okay, here it means a very dirty and a very unclean, a very highly unclean person who is very repulsive. A very repulsive, unclean person. How you would discard the person? Like want to be away from it. No, you don't want to do anything with that person. Like that. Discard this body means have that attitude of jugupsa, means have this attitude of disgust. Develop this attitude of disgust towards this body by remembering that this body is nothing but made of flesh and impurities. This body is nothing but a bunch of impurities. You just cut a body. A little bit if you cut here, what happens? What comes out? Put all nice food, nicely cooked dal and rice and basmati rice. You put inside. Tomorrow morning, what comes out? 2 days you don't take bath. What comes out? So there is only impurity in this body. No matter how many creams you apply, no matter how many perfumes you put, in 2 days you start stinking again. In spite of the peak winter, everything is snow. You go near that person who has not taken bath for 3 days, you cannot sit there. You wear your socks and shoe in the morning, very fresh, with deodorant and everything. You come back in the evening, it is smelling. Whole house is smelling. So this body is nothing but mala mamsha. That is all this body. So don't pamper this body too much. This body does not deserve too much pampering. Whatever is required to maintain a basic level of health, so that the body is not a disturbance for contemplation. See, Chandala means how you would treat an outcast. You would not get attached to that person, but you will keep that person in a safe distance. See, if you create trouble for this person, let us think of a neighbor playing Manale. Okay? A neighbor prone to play Manale. This person who is prone for playing loud Manale, fundamentally this person is not educated. Does not have this fine upbringing. So this person is prone to disturb himself and the environment. If you pick up a fight with that person, what will happen? At the same time, if you become very friendly with the person, what will happen? If you become very friendly with the person, he will knock on your door every now and then, after getting drunk. Suppose if you pick up a fight with the person, this person will try all his best to create trouble for you. Exactly when you want to sleep 12 o'clock in the night, he will play Manale in the room next to your wall. So, this person with a highly impure mind and a body, you will neither have trouble with the person, nor you will be close to the person. You maintain that person in a safe distance. In the same way, don't get attached and start pampering your body because it doesn't deserve it. At the same time, don't neglect your body and give trouble to your body. If you give trouble to your body, it is going to give you trouble in return. So, this body is like a chandala. So, treat it very carefully, very diligently, in a safe distance. Means, treat the body in a way that the body is not a botheration. That is how we have to translate. When you have a tendency to get attached to the body and pamper the body, think this body is only made of flesh and impurities and it is going to rot anyway, no matter how I take care of it. So let me not get obsessed with this body. Whenever you are obsessed with this body, contemplate on the impurity of this body and the temporariness of this body and all the ugly things that this body is made of. Whenever you are having a tendency to neglect the body on essential matters, remember to take care of the body minimally so that the body is not disturbing you. Like this, keep the body in a safe distance, means where it does not disturb you, at the same time where it is not too attractive either. That's it. Without giving the slightest chance of forgetfulness arising from sleep, worldly matters of sense object, meditate continuously on the self in your mind. Indraya lokavartaya shabdaderapi vasmute vismute kvachin navasaram datta chintayatmanam atmani. This is the previous one. And this current one is shunning the safe distance. Mata pitror marodbhutam malamam samayam vapuhu tyatva chandalavad duram brahmi bhuya kriti bhava. Brahmi bhuya means the one who is infused with that idea that I am Brahman. That is what it means. Here it does not mean, becoming Brahman. Brahmi bhuya means becoming completely absorbed in the essence of the knowledge that I am Brahman. Being completely absorbed in the essence of this knowledge that I am Brahman. How to be completely absorbed? By keeping the body in the center. That means keep the disturbances that arise based on the body, minimize those disturbances to be established in the self-knowledge. Ghatakasham mahakasha havatmanam paratmani. Ghatakasham mahakasha ivatmanam paratmani vilapyakhanda bhavena tushni bhava sadamune. Ghatakasham mahakashe iva atmanam paratmani. See, it's very, very important. See, the translation is pathetic here. I don't know how is the other thing which I sent you. Verse number 288. Can you read the translation?
Yes. Merging the finite soul in the Supreme Self.
Okay, come. Okay. Okay, and proceed.
Like the space enclosed by a jar in the infinite space, by means of meditation on their identity, always keep quiet.
Okay.
Or silent.
Better than what is written here. Merging the finite ego in the Supreme Self, like the pot spade merges in the infinite space. By meditating on their identity, be forever peaceful. See, such a contradictory translation. Fellow will not think it. After you merge your ego in the Supreme Self, who is there to meditate? Meditate on their identity. After you merge your individual ego in the Supreme Self, like the pot space merges in the infinite space, meditate on the identity. Makes any sense? So how it should be seen? It's like this. Ghatakasha mahakashe iva means like the oneness between the pot space and the infinite space. Ghatakasha mahakashe iva atmanam paratmani vilapya. Vilapya means having resolved the separateness of the individual self from the Supreme Self, just like how you resolve the separateness of the pot space from the infinite space, pot. Now, as though there is a pot space and the space around the pot, right? Now, how do you resolve the separateness of the pot space from the space above outside? By understanding that the pot itself is in the space. because of the situational presence of the surface of the pot, there is an apparent appearance of a pot space and the outside space. While in reality, there is no pot space and outside space, there is only space. Once you understand that, there is pot space, there is outside space. For all practical purposes, when I ask you to pour water in the pot, you will not pour outside the pot, you will pour inside the pot. Very well in the Supreme, understand that there is no individual self as such. There is only the Supreme Self. There is only space which can be identified inside the pot also. Potness is a condition that is generated in space so that the pot can become useful. But the space is not limited. Similarly, the self is not limited because of the body. Because of the presence of the body and mind, there can be a functional self. A functional self becomes possible just like how the space inside the pot becomes possible functionally, while actually there is no space inside the pot. So it is pure understanding, that's all. The ego continues like before, probably without ignorance. The ego continues, but there is no ignorance. There is no sense of losing the space. The space is always there. The space is not limited. So the sense of self, I am limited because of the body and mind. Such an idea will not be there because there is no sense of separate self from Ishvara. There is only one self that shines in this pot, that is available in this pot, that is available in that pot. Somebody is a pot belly, there is a little bigger pot, somebody is a smaller pot, some pot is 6 feet tall, some pot is 4 feet tall. Still all pots is the same self which is in every pot. Some pot is beautiful, some pot is ugly, but the space is the same. All pots are in space. All individuals are there in one self. There is only one self alone, and that is me. By this knowledge. Just like how you see obviously that there is no pot space and outside space, in the same manner, see that there is no individual self and supreme self. There is only one self which is me. That's what it means. It's knowledge and understanding. Be forever peaceful by meditating on the identity. Akhanda bhavena means by the power of this understanding, you have this I am Brahman, that akhanda karadati. Feeling yourself as the infinite. Akhanda bhavena means the feeling that I am infinite. The feeling of oneself as the infinite. Tushnim bhava sada munehe. Tushnim here means silent. Be established forever in silence. Here, it also means the quietness of the mind, but it also means not losing touch with the fact that I am actionless. Naham karta. The self is actionless. I am fundamentally actionless. Not losing touch with the fact about yourself when actions happen. Swaprakashamadichanam swayam bhuya sadatmana brahmandamavi pindandam jatyadam malabhandavad. Being yourself as the self-luminous Brahman, the sole substratum of all things, is yet the macrocosm and the microcosm, like a vessel full of impurity. So there are further explanations of how to do this. The different repercussions of the truth of yourself on different thought patterns, on different habitual patterns. There are different ways of considering the same self-knowledge, which is going in a very elaborate manner. We will continue in the next class. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamādāya Purnamevāvasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.